Okay, members, welcome back. Thank you, Fed. Okay, members, agenda 13, notice the motions. First notice motion we have Councillor Gallagher to move. And we have a second on that. It is Councillor Barr. 2 seconds, Councillor Gallagher, to get this on the screen. Do you want to go ahead and Councillor Gallagher? I'll be up there in
I
2
will
seconds.
indeed. Thank you, Mayor, for letting us in. That this council immediately asks that offers bring forward a report on the possibility of expanding the terms of reference of the Austin's task force with a view to looking at all the vacant business premises within Strabane Town Centre, including but not exclusive to Upper Main Street, Lower Main Street, Railway Street, Day Road, Bowling Green, Butcher Street, Castle Street, Castle Place, Church Street, John Wesley Street, and Dock Street. The aim of this group will be to identify current owners and any future intentions of possible new owners, the possibility of looking at funding opportunities to renovate both inside and outside, vesting possibilities, and rate support possibilities. The outcome will be to increase footfall in Strabane Town, increase the rate space, improve the entire image of a major town within the district, and ensure a vibrant economy to the entire business sector within our council. Mayor, I've been in this council like 8-9 years here now, and what I've seen is a very much a decline in Strabane Town. A lot of properties have become empty, and at one time it went around vacant premises, and we look build the economy of this town. And the responsibility of this council that we set up as task group and that we get these businesses back into place. Mayor, just in recent weeks, we have seen the potential of major job losses within Strabane because this council made a plan decision, and we've seen the possible loss of 50 jobs in New Look, Menares, Peacocks, and possibly Argos. And the council, as a corporate body, needs to be doing something to shore up the job losses that are happening. That people who have worked for 20 years are just made redundant at the drop of a hat. And I've seen and the possibilities, and the public are looking and saying council decisions has caused them to lose their jobs, and we can't be seen to do it. We need to be acting, and we need to bring Strabane Town back up in the 21st century and get these properties back in use so that we can improve the jobs in the town and we can improve the wage economy in the town. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Gallagher. Members, Councillor McGowan.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. I don't disagree with many of the things that Councillor Gallagher said. However, I would like to say that the motion that I submitted regarding Austin's was more or less based on preservation of a historic site, of a building that was at one stage the oldest department store, I believe, in the world, and of its location and its disrepair. That motion I put forward was to save that building from falling apart and falling down on the street, and it was also very specific to that actual retail area. As we all know, that is considered by many very much a city centre, and it was the idea behind the motion I put in was really to preserve that old building in the city centre. And I'm not taking any. I have many friends, many relatives in Strabane. But I just think this motion and attempting to attach the other one, it's clear that Strabane City Centre needs some support, yes, but my motion was basically based on Austin's and on the preservation and looking at our enforcement powers and trying to bring this building back into play. And I've had so many people that have come up to me since that motion that stopped me. I've had an architect who's based in London who's back in Derry wanting to get involved in the task force. And I believe they're very different. So I don't think that attaching it to saving the Strabane city centre, which again is very, very important, would be prudent. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that. Councillor Michaela Boyle.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Gallagher for bringing forward this very important motion. I suppose just following on the comments from my party colleague, John McGowan, we want to engage with anyone that's interested in the promotion of Strabane Town Centre to improve the local trading environment and putting plans in place to address dereliction within the town centre. For quite a number of years, as the proposer of the motion said, that the Strabane Town Centre has had its own fair share of derelict buildings. I want to commend, I suppose, the Public Realm Scheme and what they have done and to try to improve the facade of some of the buildings in the Strabane Town Centre. But nevertheless, we do still have some existing buildings that need replaced, and some of them are actually in a very, very dangerous and hazardous condition that they would really need knocked down or hugely renovated. So I just want to say, you know, we want to support and promote and sustain and transform our town centre to make it a vibrant town centre and creating positive opportunities for investors to come here and invest in our town. But that's notwithstanding the work that's already been done, and we don't want to duplicate anything that's already, any pre-existing town centre initiative that has been the city deal, the public realm, you know. So we don't want to add another layer of bureaucracy, but I just want to say that I know part of the motion is calling on officers to bring forward a report, and maybe if the proposer would just allow for the officers also to have a conversation maybe with Strabane Bid to get their thoughts on it as well. The Strabane Bid is a body, obviously, that is set up to promote the town centres within Strabane and create an opportunity for new investors and for people to come and, you know, have an opportunity to invest here. Everybody has been hit severely by every town centre by the global pandemic, and Strabane hasn't been left out from that. But
Councillor
just to
Boyle,
say,
could you bring your remarks to a close, please?
yeah, just to say that we'll be supporting the motion, but maybe just if the officers are bringing a report back, to maybe have that conversation with Strabane Bid to see if they're prepared to do anything as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. I'm sure officers will do that. Councillor Jason Barr.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me on this issue, and I thank the proposer for bringing it to council. It's vitally important that we in this council do all we can to support our town centre businesses, as well as attract new businesses and jobs to the area. Like the issues facing the Austin site in Derry, Strabane Town Centre has a number of vacant premises over the past number of years. Not only have these vacant premises stripped Strabane of much needed businesses and jobs, but many of these buildings are an eyesore and they're in a bad state of disrepair, and they may even eventually discourage other businesses from investing nearby. It is also hugely disappointing that before the Assembly broke for the election, that the Community Minister also failed to sign off on the Public Realm Scheme, a sum of £7 million investment that would go some way in renovating some of the streets around the town centre and further afield. So hopefully now that this can be finally signed off, and we can finally, and I mean finally, after so many years of waiting, see this delivered. Mayor, the SDLP therefore support the principles of this motion, but we do believe it would be better to have Strabane specific, or even old Strabane council area specific task group set up that could look at vacant building premises across the entire area of the old Strabane District Council. Overall, Mayor, the SDLP are happy to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jason Barr. Councillor Raymond Barr.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to say, I agree totally with all the sentiments expressed on what I think is a very relevant motion. The empty and derelict building situation in the town is one that is getting worse and does nothing to enhance the image of Strabane. And we also have the real situation of these properties, as we've seen very recently, fall into a very dangerous condition. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Rimmer. Councillor McKenna.
Thank you for letting us in, Mayor. We fully support this motion, and we are well aware, the council are well aware of the state of Strabane Town Centre, and we all very aware of it. And I would ask the council to do as much as it can in all its powers to assist Strabane becoming a prosperous, thriving border town. When we look down in County Down and look at Newry and look how prosperous it's become through investment in the town and in the town centre, and I honestly believe that we can do the same for Strabane. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McKenna. Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in. And first of all, I can understand Councillor McGowan's motion and around Austin's, the historical value and the preservation of that. But as we move and look to the town of Strabane, I do believe that we as a council should be doing all we can. And you know, and that's not undermining all the other good work and around the public realm and the discussion, and it's not and around the city deal. And it's not so long ago since we had a walk around Strabane town with our chief executive, John Kelpie, who, you know, we listened to very, very positive news. And yes, there's some difficulties with some of the buildings, ownership and vesting, and we understand that. But it's always different. But I do agree with Councillor Boyle, Michaela Boyle, that I do believe our officers should be in contact with or in conversations with Strabane Bid, because really they are the organisation in Strabane town promoting and leading the charge and building new businesses and bringing new investments, and it would be interesting to hear their take on it as well. But look, I do appreciate the sentiments of the motion and have no problem in supporting it. And look, I would look forward to seeing, I would look forward to seeing a report coming back to the relevant committee regarding the discussions with the bid company and around what their thoughts and ideas then and to move the thing forward. But happy to support the gist of the motion, Mayor. Thanks.
Okay, members, I'm seeing no more further speakers. I'm going to pass it back to Councillor Gallagher to close us. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor. And thanks everyone who's spoken, supported this. And I look forward to seeing this report, and I look forward to the setting of the task group. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Okay, members, the motion on the floor, Councillor Gallagher's. I'm not hearing any dissenting voices here. Anybody looking to abstain or go against this motion, could you let me know on the chat box or raise it now? Okay, members, well done, Councillor Gallagher. That motion passes. Moving on, members, to their second motion of today, it's Councillor Evers to move.
Take motion as read, Chair, please.
Yeah, have you a seconder there?
Councillor Barr, Jason Barr, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Okay, it's on the screen. Go ahead, Councillor Edwards.
Mayor, thanks for letting me bring this motion to council today, and I've done so as I believe it's very important for the future of CMOs within the Derg DEA. Mayor, over the last 2 years, the SDLP and my colleague Daniel McCrossan has been working with Moraines on investment and expansion plans into our council area. Moraines are a soft drinks manufacturer that are currently headquartered in Ballbuffet. And in April of this year, just last month, there was an announcement made by Moraines that they've acquired part of the vacant Herman's Mill site in CMOs, and they've planned significant investment in the area with up to 150 new jobs created over the next 2 years. Mayor, this is a monumental investment for the village, and it does have the potential to be a major catalyst in reviving the villages. Not only will it be providing these new jobs, but it'll also have a knock-on effect of boosting our local economy and existing businesses in the village. But Mayor, this investment is only part of the jigsaw puzzle of the Herdman site. There's the old buildings there, excuse me, which are currently laying in a dilapidated condition. There have been a number of fires there in recent years, and there is a major need to preserve the heritage and the long-term future of these buildings. And I do believe that have met them previously, that the Siam Mills Preservation Trust are leading the way in this. And in terms of sporting facilities, Mayor, they lie adjacent to the Herdman site. Science Swiss, the local football team, and the cricket team compete there. There's over 300 people, many of these young children, using these facilities on a weekly basis. These teams, Mayor, have not received any investment from this council. They have development plans. They have plans to acquire the pitch, but I do believe it's important that council work directly with them to enhance these facilities locally. And finally, Mayor, the last piece of the puzzle is the Mourne Sidewalk, which is also runs adjacent to this site. It's an amazing open green space. It's a walkway along the river there in Siam Mills. It's also fallen into bad state of disrepair over recent years. Facilities are aged, pathways overgrown, and it's actually full of dog fouling, which I've raised on this council many times. The lease for this walkway and outdoor facility, of which council was obviously a party to, expires later this year. The SLP want to see early engagement with the landowners on the future of this amenity, and hopefully secure its long-term future and bring vital upgrades to this. But to conclude, Mayor, the motion asks for engagement on all four fronts. We now have significant economic investment in the wider Siam Mills area, but this does need to be followed up with preserving the history of Siam Mills through the old mill buildings, with securing the future of the
Thank you,
existing
Councillor Evers. You bring your remarks to a close there.
and also the outdoor walk area. It could be transformative for the village, but we do need that engagement and action from council. Thank you, Mayor, and I hope that everyone can support the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Evers. Members, I see nobody looking on this. You speak. Oh, there we go. Alderman Devaney.
Mayor, I'll just pass because I see my colleague Keith wants to speak on, but I don't know whether he had internet connection. If he doesn't have internet connection, Mayor, would you come back to me?
Okay, Alderman Corrigan.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in. And I do thank Alderman Devaney for keeping me right there. Sometimes our connection doesn't be as good at this end of the council area. But Mayor, I do welcome the motion brought forward by Councillor Edwards. We know there's been ongoing difficulties with the Mill and Herdman site there, and it is good to see that we do have Mulryans in this area. And Mayor, fully support what he's bringing forward. It's there's so many issues, and again, he has went over them, and again, dog violence an issue, and the sports pitches, and we do know the work. And again, we were at a meeting not that long ago with Siam Mills Building Preservation Trust. So we see what they're trying to do, and hopefully we can get some movement on things. Given circumstances have been changed there, sadly, but hopefully we can get movement there, and hopefully, Mayor, that council will be in a position to try and fund these groups to a certain extent, because it has been a section. I suppose it was the case, the history of the site, that that the patches and all for the village of Siam Mills were just provided through this. So it is the case that I welcome the motion, and Mayor, I'm more than content to support Councillor Edwards' motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Corrigan. Councillor Michaela Boy.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. My colleague, Councillor McHugh, was to speak on this, but he's having some difficulties getting connected and the audio. I just want to, obviously my party will be supporting this motion, and thanks to Councillor Edwards for bringing it forward. The importance of the Herdman's Mills site has massive economic opportunities. Obviously the local history of it, and we do know quite a number of organisations and individuals and people who support keeping the mill and its former glory and bringing it to its former glory, I should say. You know, we do recognise that the need therefore to work together with this, not just to boost, you know, the local economy, but to also it's one of our national heritage landmarks, and we want to recognise that and keeping with the Sion area and what it stood for. I also the football clubs and the cricket clubs within the area and the bowling club. I know all the people involved in those organisations all would like to see this piece of work brought forward, and we do want to give everybody our support and our assistance in helping them to realise the maximum potential for that this area has. So we're happy to support the motion, and thanks to Councillor Edwards for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Councillor Michaela Boyle. Members, I see no more speakers, so I am going to pass back to you, Councillor Edwards, to close up.
Thanks, Mayor. Just want to thank Alderman Kerrigan and Councillor Michaela Boyle for their support. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, thank you, Councillor Edwards. Members, I'm not hearing dissenting voices on the motion from Councillor Edwards. Anybody looking to abstain or go against this motion, could you let me know now on the chat box, please, or on the screen? Okay, members, the motion from Councillor Edward passes. Members, moving on to your third motion of today, it is from Councillor Michaela Boyle.
Thank you, Mayor. I take the motion as read if I have a proposer.
A seconder. Can
Or
we have a
second,
seconder,
sorry, I
members?
beg your pardon.
Happy to second, Chair.
Councillor Duffy, second. Go ahead there.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I suppose just what the body of the motion is asking is to call on the Minister for Help in terms of the issue of payment for living wage and a proper fuel allowance. I'm asking that the Health Minister make this a prerequisite for the awarding of any private health contract, and I'm seeking the support of this council and its members to call upon the Health Minister to adopt policy initiated by the previous Finance Minister, Conor Murphy, to make paying workers the living wage a requirement for any private company receiving a Department of Health contract, including for cleaners, porters, catering staff and domiciliary care workers. The motion further calls on the Health Minister to make a payment of a fuel cost allowance in line with the public sector rates, also a further prerequisite of any tender, which is particularly crucial for domiciliary care workers. We have been as a party lobbying for the Minister to review the fuel allowance for care workers employed directly by the Western Trust, and given the current fuel allowance, it's simply not adequate to cover fuel and the running costs of their cars, particularly in the rural areas where the distance the carers have to cover and travel to between clients are disproportionately longer. Domiciliary care workers in the private sector are even at a greater disadvantage, having no statutory protection in terms of either a minimum wage or a minimum fuel cost allowance. After working all week, many are now being left with little or nothing to live on once they pay their fuel costs, and many that I have spoke to are on the verge of giving up. We've seen the impact of this also and what it's having on hospitals as well. We have patients being discharged from hospitals to home, unable to go home due to the lack of resources and no care packages in place. So I'm asking the support of this council to ask the Health Minister to be able to continue to perform, for care workers to be able to perform their vital role within the community, and to make the payment of a living wage and proper fuel allowance a prerequisite for awarding any private healthcare contract, which is essential to all of this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Michaela Boyle. Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in, and I welcome this notice of motion coming forward here by Councillor Boyle. I think it's very prevalent in the times that we're in, and I know when I was on the doors and steps of some of those carers, they were raising the serious concern and around their salaries, and especially the fuel allowance, and we know after do a certain amount of mileage, it's cut by 50%, that it was a concern. And I've talked to many of them on the doorsteps, and I can assure you, Mayor, many of them have said to me that look, they're leaving. There are many carers leaving this game because they can't afford to live out of it, and they are looking seriously at other jobs where there are better pay standards. And I do agree that look, when we have patients in hospital and we're trying to get them out to their home again, there is issues and around the care packages, getting care packages in place. And you know, I believe that is because there's a limited amount of carers out there, and if we do not, you know, look to enhance their salary for that domiciliary care and enhance that fuel allowance and the crisis we are in the moment with the price of fuel, that situation is only going to be exacerbated. And look, I do believe making, you know, a fair pay for all the workers. At least the minimum the living wage is required for any private company receiving a department contract for domiciliary care. But Mayor, very, very happy to support the notice of motion. And that's it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. Alderman Guy.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in, and thanks to Councillor Boyle for bringing this motion forward. It's obvious with an ageing population, Northern Ireland is facing and will continue to face significant pressures of domiciliary care services. For too long, the service has been run on a shoestring. It was a service that was wrongly identified for savings in the past, and it was an area which had long not received the support that it required. It was a service that was on its knees whenever the Ulster Unionist Party took the health portfolio in early 2020, and almost immediately its frailties became clear with the onset of the pandemic. Minister Swan has already recognised the need for immediate action to support the sector, and last year announced additional in-year funding of up to 23 million for domiciliary care and care home staff. Despite the absence of an agreed executive budget, he already instructed his officials to ensure the funding maintained this year. Central components of that package included an increase in the current hourly rates for providers of domiciliary care packages and an acceleration of the increase in uplift in independent sector HSC rates to the real living wage. This funding has enabled employers to offer improved rates of pay and better terms and conditions. The additional funding has provided an incentive to those wanting to stay within the sector and indeed attract new staff, and with the aim of increasing capacity. The package was not only very deserved, but it was also essential to stabilise the current position. The pressures on domiciliary care were so significant that were impacting the ability to discharge patients from hospital. Whilst the package has undoubtedly helped with adding in more deep value capacity, there's still obviously more work to be done. And on the mileage issue, the current fuel crisis has brought into sharp focus the issue of mileage for staff. It's something the Ulster Unionist Party too have concerns about.
Councillor Guy, you bring your remarks to a close, please.
I will need the drop in the rate.
Thank you.
3,500 miles have been travelled, where it goes from 56 to 20 pence. Whilst the clock has been reset for April, the Minister continues to work and keeping it at 56 pence rather than the drop. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Fred. Councillor Guy, or Alderman Guy. Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Boyle for bringing this motion. I agree kind of with most things that have been said, and I think it's good that all political parties now are talking about the need for better pay for workers. But I think it's really important that we think about how did we get here when it's come to workers who are working, essential workers, working for the health social care service, being treated, this badly. And it's really because workers' pay has been a total afterthought for the executive. And this is now changing because workers are taking a stand everywhere. And that's that is the key. The other thing is around the creeping privatisation of the health and social care service. That's at the heart of this. Really, like these private companies are cutting corners to make a profit. And that's their reason of being, is to make money from these services. And really what we need to do is take social care, domiciliary care, care homes back under the control of the health and social care service, where workers have excellent terms and conditions, where workers have a set pay band that's not undercut, and where workers are represented by trade unions. Because for a lot of these workers in domiciliary care under the private providers, they are not allowed to join trade unions. And there's been a vicious opposition, really, for these workers to join trade unions. And when workers have raised this, Stormont Executive has looked the other way. That's why we need better trade union rights, but we really do need to take social care back into the health and social care service. And rather than give more money
Councillor
to these
O'Neill, bring your
private,
remarks to a close, please.
yes, so rather than give more
Thank
money to
you.
these private companies, we need to actually employ more domiciliary care workers and social care workers under the health and social care service. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Boyle for raising this and bringing it forward. I think it's a really important issue to many, and we know only too well that a lot of our social care and domiciliary care is predominantly women, mothers, and people from our BME community who work really, really hard in the sector. I think Councillor Boyle is right that this can impact people in worse areas like rural areas. The fact that it might not necessarily be worth them to do the travel because the rising cost in fuel is ridiculous. Health and social care is on its knees. We know our demographic is getting older, and social care is a huge part of making sure people feel safe and secure as they get older. Mayor, when we have this conversation, sometimes it comes down to the trust versus private companies. And I have to say, there are some private companies out there that do pay really, really well and do look after the workers. And there are people out there who will take advantage just for a profit. And I think that's why this motion is important, because it's pragmatic in saying that we want a minimum requirement of a living wage for these people, because they are the bread and butter of our workforce. They're the people who are holding us up and looking after us. And we've seen that throughout the pandemic. These people are so important when it comes to our healthcare. So, Mayor, we are more than happy to support this motion. We want our healthcare workers, our domiciliary care workers, to feel safe and secure and well paid within our workforce, so that the service doesn't struggle anymore. But thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Riley.
Thanks, Mayor, for bringing me in, and thanks, like others have said, to Councillor Boyle for tabling this motion for debate this afternoon. Just to put on record the SDLP's support for the proposals. I'm also glad to see that in committee next week, officers have a draft report to the Reform of Adult Social Care consultation that's out, and some of the points that have been made today will also, I'm sure, be reiterated and put into that consultation response next week, this week. I think that as others have said, the fact that we have domiciliary care workers facing increased costs, and the cost of fuel specifically having risen so much over such a short period of time, it really does put a big pressure on frontline workers who are trying to provide that care to so many citizens across our council area. And they can only do that work if they're able to get there, and if they're really finding themselves asking the question about how much does it cost to go to work, then I think that it's action like the proposal that we have in front of us here today that we have to support, to try and make the changes to allow the system to do better for the person and to that's receiving the care, but also the system needs to do better for the workers who are providing that much needed care to so many people. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Councillor Raymond Barr.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say a welcome motion and thank Councillor Boyle for bringing it. The care situation at this moment in time is critical with many people leaving. But one of the important knock-on effects of this is the stress that this has put on families who are forced to become unpaid carers, causing severe physical and mental health problems for these families. So once again, I support the motion 100%.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Members, I see no further speakers, so I'm going to pass back to Councillor Michaela Boyle to close it off.
Yeah,
Councillor
thank
Boyle.
you. Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to everyone who spoke in support of the motion. Just to make a comment that back as far as 2015-16, the Health and Social Care Board undertook a review of domiciliary care services here in the North to assess how prepared the service was to meet future challenges and support the planning for the service going into the future. The review did involve engagement with a lot of the organisations and the unions and the community and voluntary and independent sectors. So I think we have to kind of look at nothing's changed, nothing, coming out of that review, things seem to have got a lot worse. So I do take on board the comments made by Councillor Maeve O'Neill about the privatisation of health and social care workers and maybe getting more employing more care workers within the health and social care services as well. So just want to make that comment that the outcome of that review and the recommendations hasn't really made much difference for domiciliary care workers. So just thanks for everybody who spoke in support of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, members, I'm not hearing any dissenting voices in this one. If anybody is looking to abstain or against this motion from Councillor Boyle, could you let me know now on the chat box? Or is it in the screen? So the motion of Michaela Boyle passes unanimous. Thank you. Okay, members, moving on to our next motion. It is from Councillor Jackson.
Good Mayor. I'll wait to see if we get a seconder.
Yeah, members could have a seconder, please.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Michaela Boyle. Okay, Councillor Jackson, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. And Mayor, I'm going to take the motion as read. And I suppose just state that the recent reports from the Audit Office and the PAC on the planning system across all 11 councils across the North haven't come as a surprise. They haven't come as a surprise to anybody who wishes to invest in this area. They haven't come as a surprise to the many social housing providers that are keen to address the growing housing crisis. It hasn't come as a surprise to those who are hoping they sustain and support rural communities, and to the many homeowners who, out of necessity, wish to make adaptations to their homes. For them, the planning system's broken, and it's become cumbersome and seems to have no built-in accountability on statutory consultees over the length of time that they take to respond to applications. Mayor, our council have very ambitious plans to invest right across our district. We're determined to see the expansion of the university, but we need to see the infrastructure to come along with that. We need to see accommodation for the numbers of students that we hope to see. We want to see more social and affordable homes to meet the huge demand within our district. And we want to maximise in the largest single investment package in this district through the City Deal and the Inclusive Future Fund. But to do that, and we need to send a message that our council is open for business. And that's something Sinn Féin are committed to. We want to see a step change in how we engage with potential investors and overcome the challenges that the planning system presents. We want to move away from a risk-adverse approach to one that will see real movement on applications that will provide jobs, homes, and sustain rural communities. Mayor, as somebody who's been a member of the planning committee since the function was transferred to council, I've heard from countless applicants who have praised the professionalism and the attitude of our local planners. We have a fantastic team in place, but it's clear that there's fundamental changes needed on how the planning system operates. And I think this is the recent reports from the Audit Office and the PAC present us with that opportunity to make the necessary changes, and we can't let this opportunity pass us by. So I'd appeal for all elected members in this virtual chamber to support the motion that's in front of us now. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Okay, first on the list is Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. I totally agree with Councillor Jackson's sentiments, and having followed Christopher as chair of the planning committee, I fully appreciate his commitment to see a system looked at and revamped and make it simpler for people to put planning applications in and make it easier for us to get answers back from the statutory bodies who do tend to drag their heels quite a bit. But it is down to us to make sure that we put pressure on them. And it's also up to us to try and keep abreast of things and try and keep people informed. When I mean that, I mean everybody informed, from the applicants, the agents, the people on the street who are looking for houses, to let them know what's happening and move the thing forward. We have a good planning team that work hard. The councillors on the planning committee work hard to get it right, but we don't always get it right. And perhaps if we can improve our system at our own level, we will start to get things better, improve better. Thank you.
Thank you, for Councillor Kerrigan. Alderman Kerrigan, sorry.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Apologies.
And
Apologies, that was Councillor McKenna. Apologies. Okay, Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do thank Councillor Jackson for bringing it, and I will concur with the remarks made by Councillor Jackson and by Councillor McKinney as well. You know, planning is a thing on its own there, and I enjoy the planning committee, but there are so many times where we are frustrated as members of the planning committee, whereby the delay and how long things take, particularly as we touched there with statutory bodies and applications are. I mean, there's one application I'm thinking on, it's been before the committee twice and it's been put back and we're still waiting on statutory consultees to respond. So these things there and so Mayor, I have no problem at all. I think we can take on criticism, we can take on constructive criticism, and I think it'll do no harm at all to set up this committee, and I'm more than content to support it. I know as well, and I think we can learn to try and improve what we're doing in planning, because we know planning is such an emotive issue. But another wee aspect, I suppose, that the actual planning authorities can look at, the website, the planning portal is not the easiest thing navigated right. But again, there's things we can learn from it here, so I've no problem supporting it and put on record, as our previous two speakers have stated, we have a very good team of planning officers and they do great work, and just credit to them as well. But thank you very much, Mayor, and we'll be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Fred. Councillor Minnick.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to Councillor Jackson for bringing this motion. It is timely, based on the two recent reports that were released by the Audit Office initially and then the Public Accounts Committee. I'm sure all members who've read them would agree that they make for stark reading in relation to the current operation of the planning system. A lot of the criticisms that have been brought from the reports are outline delays in relation to the local development plans, lack of accountability is brought up, lack of confidence by the public in relation to the processing of applications in timely fashion, and amongst other things. So it is a motion that the SDLP will be supporting. It'll give our own council and our own planning officers and ourselves an opportunity to discuss the reports in detail, and to maybe have conclusions and recommendations that we could implement ourselves that might prove more efficient for future applications and committees. And I would agree with all our members speaking there that we have a very good team of planning officers. They're very diligent and they perform their duties well. But obviously, the processes involved and the delays involved seem to be external delays, as already outlined by Ministry Statutory Consultees. So indeed, it's a timely motion, and we would fully agree with it. And thank you to the Councillor Jackson for bringing it before Council today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Fred. Councillor Mooney, Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mayor. I think there was a lot of concern following the reports from the audit office and the PAC, and I think I'd raised it previously, and officers are going to bring a report on these and how it impacts what we can do basically as a council. I think from a citizen point of view and from a community point of view, like the planning system is just not working at all. It's not working for anybody by the sounds of it. But like the European Commission and the United Nations have found systemic failures in our planning system around the environment and also public appeals. And right now the only power that ordinary people have, or the only say or objection, is through judicial review. And for an equitable planning system, the public needs effective oversight, which really effectively means equal rights of appeal. And I think that's essential as we look at the reform of the planning system. And there's local communities all over the north here and beyond whose daily lives are impacted by bad planning and failing environmental regulation, and some of those lives are being made a living hell. And there's a list as long as my arm of people who environmental protectors who have been essential in the regulation of environmental law here, who've been badly impacted by the planning system. And it really is in everyone's interest that we do have a fit for purpose planning system that supports fair development, but also that supports that works for communities and doesn't harm nature. Thanks.
Thank you, Fred. Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Raymond Barr.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be supporting the motion, and there are obvious flaws in the system. An example: in 2021, plan approval was granted for Lidl to relocate to a new site in Strabane. This site was an existing retail park which houses 4 retail units. However, it would appear minimum consideration was given to the obvious consequence concerning the future of the 4 stores currently trading on the site, or more importantly, the employees. So what in effect was a good news story for the town with the creation of 10 new jobs has turned into a nightmare with up to 50 jobs at risk. And I think with a bit more diligence, this situation could have been avoided. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Raymond Barr. Alderman Taveri.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in. And just like my colleague, I have to say the report on planning across Northern Ireland does make very, very stark reading. And I know our party, the DUP, when we're in discussion with those bigger businesses, some of them are reluctant. Even foreign businesses are reluctant to come to Northern Ireland because what they do say, Mayor, is, look, what takes us 6-7 years to get a planning application through for those big applications in the UK mainland, those can be sorted out in 3 to 4 months. And we all know when we're in that big game of business, time is of the essence. And, none of them can wait years until a decision whether they can invest in Northern Ireland. And I will put on record, I know the report was stark reading, but this is no condemnation of our planning officers. I believe I was going to say probably they are the best. I believe they are the best in Northern Ireland, but they have to work within guidelines and process. And it's within those guidelines and process sometimes where the difficulty lies. And I believe there's a duty of care, and we welcome this notice of motion coming forward here, that we have to look at those guidelines and processes and slimline it and make it less cumbersome. And look, yes, I've mentioned this before, Mayor, and around the statutory agencies, they are a difficulty. And, you know, our planners, we always take the hike about planning. The planners are to blame for it. But, you know, we never hear of those planning applications that go through the system very, very smoothly and very, very quickly. We always hear about the one where that takes time and time and time, and many of them are waiting on statutory agencies. And the other thing, just I want to finish on, Mayor, is I hear many people, even architects and planning, those who have applications in, about the portal system being very, very difficult to manoeuvre through it. But Chair, we have, once again, we have no problem in supporting the notice of motion.
Thank you, Fred. Alderman Tavani. Okay, members, I see no further speakers. I'm going to pass back down over to Councillor Jackson now to close off the motion. Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and a big thanks to everybody who spoke in support of the motion. I think there's widespread acknowledgement that there is changes needed to the system, and as almost everybody's said, that is no reflection on our planning officers within our council. But I looked forward, because I know we did have a meeting to discuss one of the reports, but I would hope that this task and finish group, when it meets, we will be looking at practical ways at how we can make changes to the system that's implemented it within our council, to make the system better and to send that clear message that we're open for business, and that we will remove barriers to investment, to creating jobs and creating homes within our council. So again, just thank everybody for their positive comments, and look forward to the work of the task and finish group. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Councillor Jackson. Members, I am not hearing once again any dissenting voices in this motion. Anybody looking to abstain or go against Councillor Jackson's motion, could you let me know now on the chat box, or let me know online? Okay, members, the motion from Councillor Jackson passed unanimous. Members, the time is now 20:06. I'm going to take 10 minutes here and come back at 15:50. So I'll see you in 10 minutes, members. Thank you. Okay, members, thank you for that. Okay, members, moving on to the next motion of Councillor McGowan.
Thank you, Mayor. Can we take the motion as read, please?
Just wait there, 2 seconds there, it is on the screen. Can I have a seconder, please?
Second, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Go ahead, Councillor McGowan.
Listen, folks, it's clear that we're heading into a very difficult year, and it really looks as if the British government aren't really willing to intervene to help ordinary people who are suffering from the cost of living crisis. It's clear they could do stuff on wealth tax and online sales tax and non-DOMS rules, etc. But it's clear that they're not going to do it. As a public rep, I'm concerned about the effect these rising costs will have on our council budgets. We've already seen, for example, some of the huge increases in fuel contracts right across the district and how that will affect budgets that we made last year whenever this crisis wasn't really as bad as it is now or may get. Like every business, I suppose we need to look at closely at these figures, and we have to factor them into our plans when we're looking at things like staff pay raises, capital projects, community festivals and programs and headline events which bring the tourists we need to bring to this city. So I'm calling for a working group to be established involving electric reps from all groupings and independents. They work alongside the council officers and they scrutinise our financial position on a bi-monthly basis. So that this can help us prepare our annual rate setting process and have a much firmer understanding of where these cost pressures will lie. I think for many years, most parties in the chambers, including ourselves, have looked for lower rates. Some have even looked for zero rates without considering the implications for the council's ability to deliver services for our citizens. This working group will see all reps get a clear understanding of where our financial position is and hopefully allow us to collectively agree a rates figure which meets what the council's needs are without putting pressure on our citizens. It's the times that we're in and we really need to look ahead. So that's Mayor, is what I'm asking for. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor McGowan. Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me speak. We fully agree with what Councillor McGowan said there, and really he's covered everything there. What I will say, I do believe a group like this will definitely help councillors strike a fair rate next year, and this is what we all want, to keep everybody happy. So thank you for letting me in, and we fully support this motion.
Thank you for that. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Mayor. Happy to support on behalf of the SDLP. You know, we have a cost of living crisis. We have a society plagued with stagnant wages, and we have a complete absence of institutions to storm it, which could, if the DUP got their act together, provide meaningful support for families and households right across the north. And it's our duty as councillors to ensure that spending represents value for money for ratepayers. You know, that's our job. But it's even more critical now, given the growing financial pressures faced by families and individuals across our city and district. You know, we already get quarterly updates at governance and strategic planning regarding our financial position. But I feel this proposal to establish a working group to look specifically at council finances is a good idea and a welcome idea. So happy to support, happy to endorse, and happy to engage in the working group once convened. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Farrell. Alderman Taverna.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in, and the DUP have no problem in supporting this notice of motion coming forward here. And I think it's good that we will get into the discussion of the rates for next year, and it'll give everyone who attends those meetings a very, very clear insight to where our money is being spent on. And when it comes in, Mayor, to asks by different councillors for this project or their project or some other project, it clearly will line out where the money is and if that money is available for the projects. And I'm talking about the capital working group projects and stuff like that there. But on the wider issue, we do realise that there is a cost of living crisis and there are serious concerns with those with low pay increases. The cost of living is plummeting each week. We see heating oil going up again, gas up, electric up, and we're in crazy land nearly at the minute with the cost of living, and there seems to be no controls there to monitor this. But Chair, Mayor, we're very happy to support this and look forward to taking part in this working group.
You, Fred Alderman, to any Councillor Hargan? Councillor Hargan?
Sorry about that, Chair. Yeah, we'll be happy to support the proposal. Obviously, there has been debate, and there will continue to be debate about the rates process. And I'll tell you, our party policy is as long as there's austerity, as long as workers are not getting pay increases, as long as there's cost of living crisis, our view is that we can't further burden working class communities, and indeed those very people who are looking for pay increases with increased rates costs. So that's our party policy right across the north. I know it isn't shared by many. And so we would like to add to this an amendment that shouldn't be too much of a it doesn't add much to the proposal, other than to say that we would look at proposals, we would study proposals that would reform the rates process in order to see in those with more pay more in rates. We believe our rate system right now, and maybe others agree, is unfair because it doesn't properly tax wealth. It doesn't properly tax big corporations who have broader shoulders, and we should be looking at ways right now to redistribute wealth and find ways to redistribute wealth so those with the broadest shoulders are taking on more responsibility. We have more millionaires than ever before in the north. We have corporations making massive amounts of money that we all know about and can see. So while we look at our expenditures, we also need to look at our rates process, and we should be on the front foot to lobby for changes to our rates process if it means that it can increase the revenue here for our council, but also not further and disproportionately impact workers and the least well off across our society who are struggling already. So I have an amendment to the motion. Thank you.
Okay, members, just before I take a second on this, just let me see this amendment.
Happy to second it.
Just 2 seconds before I take a second, members. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, the amendment isn't on the same issue. Mayor, the motion relates to council finances, and the amendment relates to reform of the rates process. The amendment would be acceptable as a separate motion on its own if it was brought forward to another council meeting, but it couldn't be accepted as an amendment to this particular motion.
Okay, thank you for that. Felt that amendment doesn't carry. Members moving on, Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very briefly, as someone who continuously laments the disparity in spending within the council, I'll be more than happy to support any call for the setting up of a working group to oversee council finances. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Barr. Members, I see no further speakers. When we pass back to Councillor McGowan, please sum up.
I'll keep it very brief. I'm just delighted that all members have made those comments. I do believe we have to be prudent as we move forward, but we're heading into difficult times. I don't think in a normal year we would need to do this because we have a lot of in-house people who are very good at this. But just the thought behind this was just that we all are in a much better position to know the financial affairs that we have and where we're going. So thanks very much to all members for supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor McGowan. Members, I'm not hearing any dissenting voices once again in this motion. Anybody looking to abstain or go against this motion, could you let me know now on the chat box? The motion from Councillor McGowan passes unanimous. Members, moving on now to Councillor O'Neill. They move.
Thanks, Mayor. Can I take the motion as read?
You can. Could I have a seconder, members?
Happy to second, Councillor
Thank
Hargan.
you. Thank you, Councillor Hargan. Go ahead there, Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, so I think, like many people, were outraged with the firing of the 800 workers without notice by P&O ferry bosses. And, you know, they really have treated workers with contempt. The new workers they've brought on board have been offered temporary contracts, 1 month, 2 month contracts, with really poor terms and conditions. And they're already trying to undercut their new workers by paying them $4.35 an hour. The National Union of Rail, Maritime and Transport Workers said the firm was now trying to bring in an exploitative model with the lowest possible standards that they can get away with. And this, you know, what this does, it undercuts the ferry operators who do treat their workers well. You know, we've seen since all this has happened, you know, P&O ferries haven't been allowed to leave the port because they failed safety checks multiple times. So it's already been a disaster, and they're putting the safety of their workers and their service users at risk. And the P&O ferry boss had the brass neck to openly admit that he knew what he was that what he did was would break the law, yet he did it anyway. And, you know, we really, as a council who has very good policy and stands up for workers' rights, you know, we need to be outraged at this, and we need to send a strong message that P&O and DP World can't be allowed to get away with their unlawful treatment of staff. The RMT union has called for a boycott, commercial and consumer boycott of P&O ferries and the owners of DP World. And they've said that they will comply with any national minimal P&O Ferry said they would comply with any national minimum wage objections, but again, we can't believe this. We had an opportunity in terms of workers' rights in the last assembly to strengthen workers' rights with the Trade Union Freedom Bill. However, you know, this was voted against by some of the executive parties. But I think you know, we need to look at how can we support the call for a boycott of P&O ferries and of DP World, and how can we support this campaign for the workers of P&O. I think, you know, as I said before, these bosses are corporate gangsters, and they really should be locked up for what they've done. It's criminal what they've done. They've put, during a cost of living crisis, they've put families and workers further into crisis by sacking them, and you know, like, we cannot accept this. An injury to one is an injury to us all. If we let this happen, it could happen again in many other places. So this is a really, really important campaign that we need to stand up against. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor O'Neill. Councillor McKenna.
Thank you again, Mayor, for letting me in. I think we all would express solidarity with the workers at P&O. It's only right that P&O should return the furlong monies they received under the false pretense, knowing full well, as Councillor O'Neill has stated, that senior management level, that the company was planning to make radical changes to the company. As an ex-member of the RMT, I can assure you that this type of thing's been going on for quite a while. There is certain ferry companies who operate on the Irish Sea have got a lot of the workers on zero contracts. So we need that sorted out as well. A fair wage for a fair day's work as well. And to be turned around and told on zero contract that you're not needed the next day and you can sit at home and twiddle your thumbs till we need you again is totally unacceptable as well. The call for national P&O to be nationalised, I don't really think it will improve workers' rights or really help the situation. So that in mind, what I will say is we still support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor McKenna. Councillor McGinley.
Mayor, for letting me in, and thanks to Councillor O'Neill for bringing the motion forward. It is an important one. On behalf of Sinn Féin, we will be supporting the motion in full. What happened with P&O Ferries firing the 800 workers in the midst of a cost of living crisis is awful, and it should be condemned by everybody. And to my knowledge, it has been across the political field anyway. Any and all support should be given to all those workers and families who've been impacted. Sinn Féin are in full support and solidarity with the workers, and indeed all workers across all sectors. We welcome the demand within this proposal for the closure of legal loopholes that undermine workers' rights and that allow for workers to be paid less than the minimum wage. We also support calls for a fair day's pay for a fair day's work, and believe that workers should be given and paid a living wage as opposed to just the minimum wage. So just on behalf of Sinn Féin, we'll be supporting this motion.
Thank you for that, Councillor McGinley. Councillor Riley.
Yeah, Mayor, thank you. And I know Councillor O'Neill had tried to raise this issue in the past. It's good to see it on the agenda here today, but I know I'm conscious that since the decision was taken on St Patrick's Day by P&O to do what they did, there's been a lot of public commentary on it, and our party has made it clear that we think that what happened was wrong. Our MP, Colm Eastwood, has spoken on this in Parliament, and he voted on the fire and rehire policy before P&O had taken this decision and made our position clear in that sense at Westminster, and then voted again after it, again reiterating where people should be treated fairly, and the way that P&O treated their workers was completely out of step with what should happen to any employee. So, Mayor, we're happy to support the motion here this evening, and have done so in various different chambers where the SDLP are represented. So happy, Mayor, with the proposals, and well done to Councillor O'Neill for getting it onto the agenda for this evening. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Alderman Taverny.
Thank you, Mayor, and have no problem in welcoming the recommendation or the notice of motion here and support it as well. I do believe what happened to the 800 workers that were sacked by P&O was scandalous and reckless. And, you know, at the end of the day, what surprises me, Mr. Mayor, is that they were even allowed to go out and, you know, how quickly they filled those vacancies with cheaper agency staff. So it just shows you that there is a demand out there. Even the salary is low for to take those jobs. Disappointed at that. And as I always say, Mayor, in big business, the day that P&O, and I know it's called for a boycott here, but the day that P&O are 20 or 30 pound cheaper, or maybe a bit more for crossing the ferry from Northern Ireland to Scotland, they will be the company, unfortunately, they will be the company that will be used And look, our party, our MPs and our party leader has condemned this continuously, and look, have no problem in supporting the notice of motion coming forward here. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Devaney. Councillor Raymond Barr, you're supporting motion. Do you want to speak on it? Are you happy enough?
Happy enough, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harrigan.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to Maeve and everybody that has spoken in favour of it already. Yeah, look, I think that this is an egregious attack on workers' rights that just can't be accepted by anybody, because it puts all of us at risk. And there are clear ways that we can go from verbal support to kind of taking action. There should be no government contracts with P&O ferries. That's a very clear demand of the union, and that those are worth up to 40 million right now. So that could be something that the executive acts on and ends, that they should not receive government contracts. There is a call for Liverpool supporters, which I'm one of, not to travel by P&O ferries to Paris for the Champions League final. I think that there's other ways of getting there, and that would be a way to take concrete action. And there's been protests at the ports. There's been protests at the Scottish port and up at Larne in the last week, basically urging people to boycott P&O ferries and not use them and to use alternatives. And the last one just is about the port. The port's owned by the same company that owns P&O ferries, and this is their strategy. And this is what the problem is. They own ports all around the world, and they're turning them into free ports. Where there is no workers' rights, where there is no regulation, and where oligarchs and billionaires and big companies do whatever they want, like treating workers like this. And we can't tolerate that on our doorstep if we're gonna say that our society stands in favour of living wages and workers' rights and fair treatment. So that's something that Stormont needs to look at in terms of but I think that our council can lobby and raise this and push this if we're serious about protecting workers' rights and standards. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Harrigan. Members, I see no further speakers on this motion. Will you pass back to Councillor O'Neill to sum up?
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks for the member support on this motion. I think we have to remember this was not a decision to save P&O ferries from a financial difficulty. This was made solely to increase the profit of the millionaires who own P&O ferries and who own DP World. And this is a practice of exploitation of workers, doing whatever it is that they have to do in order to make more profit. And it's absolutely sickening. And I think, you often feel powerless in these situations. But I think the strength of the trade union movement, I think the strength of the support for these workers, makes us, feel that power. And I think the boycott movement is really, really essential, because you often feel, what can we do to support? Well, we can boycott. We can look at how council corporately can support this boycott. And I think it's really, really essential that we take whatever action we can to support the 800 workers who were fired by P&O. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Members, I'm not hearing any dissenting voices once again on the motion. Members, if you're looking to abstain or go against the motion, could you let me know now in the chat box, please? Okay, members, the motion from Councillor O'Neill passes unanimous. Moving now to our final motion from Councillor Harrigan and O'Neill to move. Members, could I have a seconder, please?
Mayor, before we start, can I ask for a slight change to the amendment to the motion, so that the final paragraph reads needs a pay raise demand, and take out the rally and the May Day rally and march on Saturday, April 30th, since that's already happened. So
Yeah, happy enough with that. Members, are you so happy enough with that? Anybody against that? No, Councillor Hargan, happy enough.
Thank you.
Just
Can we check
2
that motion
sec-
as read?
Just 2 seconds here. So I'll take out a proposal from Councillor Hargan, second by Councillor O'Neill. Go ahead there, Councillor Hargan.
Thank you, Mayor. The Derry Journal today had as its editorial headline that there's an urgent to-do list for MLAs now going back into Stormont, and I fully agree with that. And at the Derry Against Fuel Poverty rally on Saturday, they made it very clear that action on hardship should be at the top of that to-do list. And I think that's for all the reasons that we know about, that people are being crushed by the cost of living crisis. Even last week, right before the election, Firmus announced an increase of 16.1% for people in Derry for energy costs. And I don't know how people are going to find that money. So the hardship crisis isn't going to go away. It's only going to get worse. And I will say, look, I think it's disgraceful that the DUP are refusing to nominate ministers in order to even begin the process of having a discussion about how to tackle the hardship crisis. I'm skeptical, despite all the promises that the executive will have the means to do this and the political will to do it. But the DUP bloc and the refusal to accept the democratic will is disgraceful and needs to be challenged. So what we want is immediate action on the hardship crisis. I think through the election period, that's what everybody heard on the doors: hardship crisis, cost of living crisis. And there's two ways that we can do something about that. There's many ways, but the two ways we've highlighted in this motion are one, for a direct hardship payment to as many people as possible. We are proposing that it go to 4/5 of households. We don't think that the well-off rich people or millionaires need a payment right now. We have to get as much money as possible to those who need it most. And the bills that have went up over the last year, it's between £1,000 and £2,000. So even £1,000 doesn't go far enough, but it goes a ways. And obviously the second one is real above inflation pay raises. And inflation is now officially at 9% plus the new tax. So 1% and 2%, 3% just doesn't cut it anymore. And that's why TransLink workers have rejected what was even an improved offer, and they're going to be taking strike action. So I think that we have to send a message from this council that we understand how difficult it is for people, and we have to show that we are prepared to take what I would call radical action to support people. There's other things we can do: price caps, nationalising energy companies. Those will have to be discussions.
Councillor Hargan, you bring your remarks to a close, please.
So I will finish my remarks there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hargan. Councillor Jackson.
Good, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Hargan for bringing the motion. I'm going to propose a small amendment, Mayor. It is very small, and I'm hoping that you can work with me without using the chat box. But just after in the second
paragraph, where are we going here? Just put on the chat box anyway.
Well, in the second paragraph, after immediately, it's form an executive too. And Mayor, just on the figure that's there of 100,000 or £1,000, is to replace that with 230. and then just to remove the last 4 words around the on that paragraph outside the top earners. Is that okay, Mayor?
Okay, Councillor Jackson, happy with that. Are we a seconder?
Happy to second, Mayor.
Second, Councillor Duffy.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Senator, for that. And as Councillor Harkin alluded to, that when we were all on the doors during our recent election campaign, and the cost of living crisis is affecting everybody. It's a crisis. It's devastating our communities, and it's causing real anxiety as we go into the winter months. I know from talking to friends, neighbours, constituents, party members, they're all worried about the cost of living, and these are people that might be described as politically connected. And I suppose as an elected representative, I take pride in trying to increase the numbers within our community that are politically connected, people that look towards us to make politics work. I don't think that it's right that we make proposals or suggestions that aren't costed, that aren't realistic, and they can't work. Just in relation, because people need help now. People need money in their pocket now, and the DUP do need to step forward, help form an executive, and to get money directly into people's pockets immediately, because they need it now. I don't think that we can sit back and wait for a British government they give us the figures of the top earners within our society. People don't have that time to wait. We don't have time for the Stormont executive, a newly formed Stormont executive, they come up with the budget, with an additional budget, they meet the rising costs. We know that this money's here now. They issue that £230 payment immediately.
Councillor Jackson, you bring your remarks to a close, please.
So that's the point, Mayor, is the people need money in their pockets right now. We can't afford they have any further delays. So on that note, we put the amendment to the floor. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you. Councillor Donnelly, I'm going to bring Philip on basically. Councillor Donnelly, do you want to come on there?
Yeah, Chair, I just want to question the legitimacy of this amendment, because it seems to take an awful lot away from the original motion. It reduces the figure by 73%, and it doesn't exclude those who don't need it, outside the top earners. So I just would like to ask the question: is this legitimate, this amendment?
Okay, Councillor Donnelly, we pass you on to Philip here.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is Standing Order 17.11, which is around amending proposals. And it says that an amendment must not be a direct negative and must be relevant to the proposal which it seeks to amend, and not inconsistent with anything already agreed at the same meeting. And these proposed amendments would all fall within that category.
There you are, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor or Alderman Corrigan on the amendment.
Mayor, I suppose I'll just ask a question briefly. I suppose it's more, to be fair, probably not, but just to touch base here, Mayor, I will speak now just very briefly. No, I do believe here from what Councillor Jackson is amending here, he's stating there per household here, £230 per household, and I'm coming in there now from what statistics I can obtain here, I'm looking at approximately 728,000 households in Northern Ireland, which is coming on to approximately 167.5 million. You know, but it was, and I know Councillor Jackson can't come back to me, so it was more a question for Councillor Harkin. I was going to ask there in regards to, he had stated that it was 4/5 of households. So whenever I'm putting in that figure there per the £1,000, as per Councillor Harkin and O'Neill's initial amendment here, it's in excess of £583 million, and just wondering, you know, who's to pick up the tab for it? Again, I fully accept that people need money in their pockets now. They do, but again, as has been touched on by other members at different stages there, and Councillor Harkin and Councillor O'Neill, it is that we've got to deal with the rising costs, and we've got to deal with the energy companies and those ones that are continually put up. It's all right getting a wee pound, but that'll soon be spent. And again, the prices things are still continuing to rise. So these are issues that we do need to hit. But I'm just wondering about who's to pick up the tab for this. And again, it was the outside the top earners. You know, I mean, what reference? I'm just wondering, has he a cap, or is there a figure, or what? How is he describing as the top earners? So it's just for clarification, Mayor. So thanks very much.
Okay, thank you for Councillor Corrigan. I'm sure he'll do that when he sums up on his motion. Councillor O'Neill on the amendment.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, just to respond a little to Councillor Kerrigan as well. So, like, we feel that £230 just doesn't cut it. It is not enough for households right now. Yeah, the £1,000 has costed. It's 564 million pound is what it would cost. And you know, looking at the funds within Stormont, there's over 300 million in the Stormont bank account that was unspent. And then within the budget, the Stormont executive have budgeted £350 million for corporation tax breaks. You know, so they to reduce corporation tax, so corporations can make even more money. And you know, to attract them here. But you know, right now corporations are not the ones that are struggling. It's ordinary people. Like, you know, people are dying because of poverty here, and like that is just an absolute failure of government. So there is money. There's always money. There's always money for corporations. But this is about political will to help those people who are struggling right now. You know, this is essential. Like, what is government for? Is government here to serve corporations to make a profit, or is it here to actually support people? Thanks.
Thank you for Councillor O'Neill. Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in. And look, I do understand that the issue and around the question where the money would come from and the huge amount of money that is there. What I would say, Mr. Mayor, is look, you know, on the previous motion, outside the top earners, you know, I speak to people. I have spoken to people on the doorsteps, and there are two out of that house working, and they're paying their bills, their mortgage, their rates, their finance for their cars, their insurance, and they're trying to educate children and stuff like that. So, you know, where do we cut the line off? Do we say over 75,000? And I'm only just using that as a figure, those earning over 75,000, because I can tell you, Mayor, with the rising cost, there are a lot of, and we talk about them as the working poor, a lot of them are silent at the moment, and they are finding it, getting it very, very difficult. And look, I do support a figure here that we hope is achievable. You know, the £1,000, I don't think it's achievable, but you know, for the fight for the £230, I think that's a figure is achievable. Is it enough? Sometimes, you know, I don't believe it is, but look, it's something that we have to fight that is achievable. And you know, and on the doors, yes, was the rising cost. I understand that, but you know, those calls for the DEP to come back and to form an executive, you know, there should be nothing new in this, because you know, we did warn that if the protocol wasn't resolved and we all know the issues that the DUP would not be nominating ministers after an assembly election. Even we had been the largest party, we still wouldn't have been nominating, but we are where we're at on. And you know, when we look at the protocol and we look at initiatives that the British government has initiated, the decrease in rates, and let's be honest, because of the protocol, you know, we can't legislate for those decreases in VAT rates here in Northern Ireland because of the protocol, and that is the reason we are in stalemate at the moment. But just wanted to clarify that, Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you, Fred. Alderman Tavelli. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Mayor. So this motion is about some supposed call for a 1,000 hardship payment to households outside the top earners. And let's be clear, it's a people before profit election pledge that is uncosted, unrealistic and undeliverable. And I heard Councillor Harkin questioned on Radio Foil, on Talkback, on The View about how this would be funded, and he couldn't give a clear and coherent answer. His election pledge is back of an envelope economics, and we have made a sensible and costed proposal, and it was we need emergency legislation to unlock the 334 million sitting at Stormont, £200 for every household, £300 for every household on low incomes. But the sad reality is that whatever proposals are made, if they're costed or not, if they're realistic or not, if they're deliverable or not, nothing, absolutely nothing is going to happen until the DUP grow up and agree to nominate a Deputy First Minister. And it doesn't matter if it's a proposal for £1,000, for £300, for £230. Families won't get a penny until the DUP accept the election result and go back to work. So people need support now. Working families and low incomes, namely the working poor, need support now. In fact, they needed it months ago. So happy to support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Yeah, go ahead there, Councillor Hargan on the amendment.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, I wouldn't be supporting the amendment. I think it sends a message to people that the littlest can be done rather than we are going to fight to do as much as we can. As far as the DUP are concerned, look, money was no object when it was RHA. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds that didn't exist were there. And as far as Councillor Farrell's comments go, look, I remember the SDLP representatives struggling to explain how they were going to pay for anything they were proposing. And this is just the way that media works, as I'm sure he knows himself. There is a constant attempt by the establishment to undermine proposals that attempt to redistribute wealth. And if he doesn't understand that, well, that's about class politics. That's about elites versus the vast majority of people. We don't put elites first. We put ordinary people first. Look, politically connected is about not people who are politically connected to campaigns. That's about politically connected, as in big corporations who are politically connected to Stormont, like Capita and others who seem to benefit while working class people struggle immensely. So look, I think that this is costed. There's the 340 million that is sitting in the Stormont bank account. Then there's the 350 million that the 5 executive parties wanted to take out of the Black Grant to hand to corporations to pay for their tax cut. So that's actually more than is needed for this 1,000 payment. And this is not the only bag of money that is sitting up at Stormont. So this is about political will. This is about saying workers need above inflation pay increases. And this is about saying we're going to give people as much as they can to cover their bills, which £230 or £200 simply won't do. It's a drop in the ocean right now. So we need
Councillor Hargan, could you bring your remarks to a close, please?
We need to take more radical action that's in line with the scale of the crisis. And if this is about understanding the scale of the crisis right now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hargan. Councillor McGowan on the amendment.
Thank you, Mayor. Listen, I think if anybody in this chat today thought there was £1,000 there, of course we'd be supporting this. Our budget's given to us through the Barnett formula. It's given to us a year. The money we're given now, it was set last year. We already know the huge pressures within that in terms of capital spend. Nothing has stood still. What I will say is, if it did cost 580 or 600 million, half the Stormont budget goes on health and education. That means sitting down and taking 300 million out of health and education, and I don't think anybody would want to do that. Our proposal is about £230 to every household, but we've also got an additional £100 for those on benefits, so we have looked at that. So what I will say is, I mean, there's hard decisions to be made. Of course, we would like to do what people for profit are proposing, but the money is not there. And I would say, if you looked at the budgets that we made 6 months ago and you looked at them now, the pressures on them are huge. Not just fuel, just the cost of everything, pay raises right across different sectors. So our proposal, I'll repeat, is £230, but there's that extra £100 to people who are on benefits. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Ferguson on the amendment.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, this is everybody trying to discuss their manifestos and their political pledges, and the issue at hand here is that people need payments to their households. Every party has had some sort of pledge within their manifestos on how much that would be, and ultimately that's down to the new MLAs that have been elected to Stormont and an executive being formed. I hope that the DUP come to their senses and do that very quickly, because at the end of the day, nothing can be done. There can be no money taken out of that £340 million without an executive form, no matter what they try to say. We need our MLAs on the Assembly floor debating this and working together to find a figure that will work for everybody that is in hardship at this moment in time. Mayor, you know, the £1,000 payment would be amazing, and would possibly be possible if we would look at things like tackling segregation within our education that costs us £1 million a week. If we looked at division, which costs between 400 and 800 million pounds a year, but we're not at that point. We can't even agree to go through the door and actually sit down and do it. So, Mayor, we'll be abstaining from the amendment at the moment. And hopefully we will see people before profits. Jerry Carroll bring a private members bill or a suggestion whenever this comes up in the Assembly going forward. But Mayor, this is just rehashing over election manifestos, and we've better things to be getting on to try and help people at this moment in time. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Ferguson. Okay, members, we take just one more on this amendment, and that is Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just be very brief. And just to say and reiterate what we've already said, that our party are not in the field of making commitments and promises to people, getting people's hopes up that you can do this and that, and then blame others for not delivering. And on the corporation tax, that is to help employers keep jobs here for the people in employment. It's not to bail out big businesses, it's to help keep employment in our council district. Thank you.
Thank you, members. So I'm going to pass to John now to take us through a vote on this amendment. John?
Thanks, Mayor. Alderman Breslin?
For.
Alderman Devaney?
For.
Alderman Guy? Alderman Carrigan?
For.
Alderman McCready? Alderman Wark?
For.
Councillor Jason Barr?
For.
Councillor Raymond Barr?
For.
Councillor John Boyle?
For.
Councillor Michaela Boyle?
For.
Councillor Carr,
For.
Councillor Cusick,
For.
Councillor Dobbins,
For, John.
Councillor Donnelly, Councillor Doyle, Councillor Duffy,
For.
Councillor Edwards, Councillor Farrell,
For.
Councillor Ferguson,
Abstain.
Councillor Fleming, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Harkin,
Against.
Councillor Heaney,
For.
Councillor Jackson,
For.
Councillor Logue,
For.
Councillor McGinley,
For, John.
Councillor McGowan,
For.
Councillor McKinney,
Abstain.
Councillor Mooney.
For.
I see Councillor Fleming in there, thank you. For. Councillor O'Neill,
Against.
Councillor Riley,
For.
Councillor Sinoy Barr,
For.
any other members wish to come in? Councillor Edwards, thank you. Mayor, I've recorded 23 for, 2 against, and 2 abstentions, so the amendment passes.
Okay, thank you, members. Thank you, John. Moving back now just to the substantial motion, I see no further speakers. Councillor Hargan, do you want to come in and close that off?
Thank you, Mayor. It's very disappointing that members have rode in behind a much lower figure in terms of the direct help that we can provide, and I think that the reasons for that are pretty typical of the political establishment, that there isn't enough money. We gave 2 concrete proposals. Look, the 350 million was going to come out of the block grant to go to P&O Ferries, to go to Capita Corporation, to go to Moy Park. If money could go to them, how can it not go to desperate people across our communities right now? And then there is as everybody knows, the 330 million, and there's plenty of other money up at Stormont. So that's a message about that is about saying to people whose bills have been up by thousands of pounds, that there's very little we are going to do for you. The second thing about this motion is that nobody has raised it, but I presume now that all the parties here will back above inflation pay increases for Translink workers that are going on strike, and for public and private and community sector workers. Now, that's not what you've done when you've had the opportunity. You've actually voted for Tory real terms pay cuts. There wasn't as much debate about that, but that in a sense, I would like to see the trade unions and others hold the political parties to account for backing that, because that's what the strikes are for. So it's very unfortunate that this has been fundamentally altered in terms of its goal. And I don't think that this can be reduced to just about election pledges. This is about demands and campaigns. And it's about saying now to parties that promise change, that there needs to be real change around the issue that for most people was the main issue, which was the cost of living crisis. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hargan. Okay, members, this is a vote on the substantial motion. Now, once again, I'm going to pass to John here to take us through it. John?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Alderman Breslin.
Pretty sure they vote this in the motion now, the £1,000 one.
Alderman Breslin, please.
Sorry, John. Councillor Barr, could you put your mic on mute?
Alderman Breslin, please.
For.
Alderman Devaney.
For.
Alderman Carrigan. Alderman Wark.
For.
Councillor Jason Barr.
For.
Councillor Raymond Barr.
For.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Michaela Boyle.
For John.
Councillor Carr.
For John.
Councillor Cusick.
For.
Councillor Dobbins.
For John.
Councillor Duffy.
For.
Councillor Edwards.
For.
Councillor Farrell.
For.
Councillor Ferguson.
For John.
Councillor Fleming. Councillor Harkin.
For.
Councillor Heaney.
For.
Councillor Jackson.
For John.
Councillor Logue.
For John.
Councillor McGinley.
For John.
Councillor McGowan.
For John.
Councillor McKinney.
For John. For.
Councillor Mooney.
For John.
See Councillor Fleming in there, thank you. Councillor O'Neill.
For.
Councillor Riley.
For.
And Councillor Sinai Barr.
For.
Thank
Councillor
you,
McHugh.
members.
For.
Councillor McHugh, thank you. And Councillor Alderman Carrigan, thank you. So, Mayor, members, all voting have voted for. So those who are voting are unanimous.
There you are, members. So the substantial motion passes. Members, that brings agenda 13 to a close. So members, open for information, agenda 14, 15 and 16 as well. So I would like to bring this meeting to a close at 6:51. So thank you, members, and I look forward to your support throughout my final weeks. Obviously for the Mayor's Charity for Down Syndrome Trust, there's a lot of events happening, and you'll see it on the Mayor's page, and also free council channels. But I want to just thank you once again for all your support. So thank you, members.
Well done, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank
Well
you, Mayor.
done. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.